All right, I'm here with Eric NickSick from Xtreme Couture. This is one of the most exciting podcasts. We're coming to you hot from the ring, right in the gym. What's going on, brother?
Hey, brother.
So I'm excited to have not only a coach, but the head coach of Xtreme Couture.
Dennis is the head coach of the team. I run the whole gym, but I'm head coach of the certain fighters.
So he runs the whole gym. So this is exciting because you've cornered and worked with so many fighters and you have such a rich story. I want you to get into kind of how you got to this place and how everything came to be here at Xtreme and how you ended up here being such a mentor and such a coach to so many different fighters.
You know, kind of a crazy story because I never got into this to be in MMA at all. You know, what happened was I was playing college football and my football career was over. And the thing that I felt that I was missing the most in my life was camaraderie. Mm-hmm. I was missing the team. I was missing the guys, you know, the off-season workouts, things of that sort.
Of course.
So it kind of fell on my lap. So a good friend of mine said, hey, I think Randy Couture is opening up his own gym. I heard it's over here. And we actually kind of went on a goose chase and found this place. And he wasn't even open yet. He was in here. It was the likes of Mike Pyle, Jay Heron, Gray Maynard. And Randy was getting ready for the Tim Sylvia fight. So there wasn't even mats on the ground yet. And I walked in kind of looking around and he said, hey man, we're not open yet, but if you'd like to start trying to come in and train with us, we'd love to have you in. So that's when it all kind of started for me. I never looked back. I've been here for 13 years, you know. So first year started training under Dennis Davis and Randy and that crew. And about a year after that, I got like one little coaching class and I never looked back.
Yeah, it's kind of serendipitous how stuff works out sometimes and how it all comes together. But your story is unique because you came from that football background and kind of found this place and this team to work with. And that, in a way, gives you an advantage from a coaching standpoint because you're used to coaching teams. Exactly. And a lot of guys are used to coaching individuals. So you have that leg up on a lot of coaches in the area. Over the years, the gym has, you know, changed so much, and there's been, you know, so much talk of the fighters that have come out of here and the talent pool that's been through this gym, including Randy, who you brought up. How has that evolved in the years that you've been here and you've seen so many people come through the door? What has some of those changes been like, and how has it affected the gym?
Definitely understanding training smarter, because 10, 11 years ago, every sparring session was a fight.
Right.
And I mean, it was the who's who of guys that was in here. It was Jay Herons, the Vanderlei Silvas, the Mike Piles, you know, Forrest Griffins, and you imagine, it's a laundry list of guys. And sparring for these guys at that time wasn't what we have now. It was a fight. So for me, being almost kind of that fly on the wall, the up-and-coming kid, I just stopped and listened and looked and watched and observed.
And you've been in the knee-deep in the fight game for so long in Vegas. Yeah. That's what's exciting, too. The fight game's evolved so much here and changed so much, but you guys helped put it back on the map in many ways. When boxing was kind of beginning to flounder and didn't really have you know, something to cling to in Vegas, you guys came in with the MMA and the UFC coming in. It has to be so much fun being kind of the cornerstone piece in Vegas. I mean, that has to be the most exciting thing.
Absolutely. And it has been, because I've got to see these guys' career, especially like Martin Campman. You know, and Martin and I are still very close friends, but watching his career and seeing the things that he did and maybe even seeing the things he should have done better, and then being able to apply that to the younger up and coming generation kids. And you know, that learning process for me was just like going to college, man. It was like going to freaking 4 years of school and getting to see how to be better now for the team that we have here.
Running a gym so crazy and having that football background, you understand, you know, guys in, guys out. Over the years, how many fighters have you come across that you're like, this could have been, they could have been, that could have been? I mean, there has to be such a laundry list of guys that you're just like, if they had changed this or done this a little differently, that list has to be a mile long. What advice do you give guys when they're trying to get into the fight game and they come to you, as I'm sure they do, and they say, Eric, I want to be the next champ?
Yeah. Honestly, I'll tell a lot of guys, John, like, don't tell me, show me. It's all in your work. You know, and there's so many. The one question you get quite a bit, and it's such a canned question, is how long will it take for me to be in the UFC? And, you know, Coach Fallis always had a great saying. He used to say, how long is a piece of string? I don't know. I don't know. And there's a lot of variables that come into play with that. So when guys come into the gym, and mostly green guys, and they don't really understand, they'll say, how long does it take for me to get in the UFC? Man, it's up to you. It's up to you and your skill set and how much work you want to put in. So for these guys that come in, these up-and-coming guys, keep your mouth shut. But for me, I'm an observer. And I like to watch the guys that are doing it right and see what they're doing on a day-to-day basis and try to mimic that to help me get through that process.
Success is a grind, and explaining that to people is almost impossible. But I'm glad you brought up Coach Fallis, because it's something I've talked about with Chad, and I've talked about with Eddie and some of the guys in the area, especially Coach Casey. What does it mean to you carrying on that legacy and carrying on Coach Fallis's reputation and what he brought to the table? Because Coach, we even had ties back to the SBG days, which I didn't even know. Chad had pointed out to me his lineage and where he came from. But what does that mean to you carrying that on here?
It means the world to me, because Coach Fallis was directly my mentor, and when he came, so I brought him here. He moved to Vegas, and it was slowly but surely myself and Coach Dennis were able to get him spots enough here in the gym to make it lucrative for him enough to be able to coach here. And in my mind, I was almost in a position kind of like a GM in football. I was trying to put together the right core to win a Super Bowl. And I felt Coach Fallis was that Tom Brady aspect. We had a lot of good things already going for us, but Coach Fallis was, to me, what was going to add on. So, it's hard because I haven't really discussed much about Coach Fallis and his passing, and I still carry that every day. There was a lot of things because him and I were so close. He was a father figure to me at times, but he was also very vulnerable, and he spoke to me about things that I've never repeated, I never talked about, and I carry that weight. So for the way he passed away and what went on and transpired in the last couple months before he passed away, I regret a lot of it, man. I'm bummed, and I wish I can change that, but I can't. Yeah. So the best way for me to hold his memory and his standard is to follow the things that he set and remember him in the way that he taught me.
It's an insanely emotional topic because, and I know Chad got broken up talking about it, and even not knowing Coach, it means a lot to me to have you discuss it because it's nobody likes to lose someone who's a mentor and a father figure and someone who you look at as almost a brother, in many ways, and somebody who carried themselves with such pride and everybody talks about in such a great way. But I think what you guys are doing here and the way that you speak of him is something that's a testament to you, to Coach Lyman, to Eddie, and everybody here that carry on that legacy and carry on that mission. But taking people in and coaching them is not an easy task. You're always taking on their bullshit in plain English and their crap. And I brought up, fighters that come in and they kind of say, how do I get to this level or how do I get to that? It's not an easy task day in and day out to work with fighters and deal with all their crap. You guys do it in such a way, and it's not for the paycheck. So how do you get up day in and day out and deal with that and do that? And what's your process and how do you kind of compartmentalize things?
That's a great question. And again, I learned a lot from Coach Fallis in those regards because in a way I saw what it did to him. It chipped away at him and it made him angry, and there's things that he, some people would think that he was being rude or brash in the way he would bring up his pay or things of that sort. And then the more I've been in this sport, I understand why, because he was burned so many times. So the more communication on the front end I learned from Coach Fallis, the better, because there's no surprises.
Less problems on the back end.
Exactly. So a lot of that has been, for me, a big helping, but there's still, it's always going to be this because this sport is such an ego-driven sport. And you're never going to get, you'll raise guys, you'll bring them up, you'll have them, have one guy who's 4-0 and he moved to another gym. He did nothing wrong, but those are things that happen, and life happens, and people move, and you can't take it to heart. But for me, I always try to look at what could I have done better and move on forward.
And you go through the same thing in the firearms and defense business. There's a lot of educating that has to go on, especially with now the rise of everybody's an ambassador, right? Everybody wants to be sponsored. Everybody wants to be an ambassador. So you have to educate these guys. I mean, you have to be not just a striking coach, a grappling coach. You have to be a financial mentor.
Absolutely.
You have to be coaching these guys through every step.
Absolutely.
When you get a fighter that's, kind of coming into their own, almost like, and she's a bad example because she's pretty squared away with some of her stuff, but Jessica I, what types of things are you trying to instill in them, or what are you trying to teach them to get them to the next level? They're getting established, but how do you teach them and coach them to get them to that next spot?
Listen, communicate a lot, and I try to figure out where she needs help and where she doesn't. And I've known Jessica a long time, but I started coaching her almost about a year in February for the Valentina camp. So it was a lot of figuring out each other. And in that time, she's really became one of my best friends. We fight like brother and sister. We argue about stuff, but at the end of the day, the arguments are always in an agreement of something. It's so funny. We'll argue about this, we'll argue about that, but we're actually arguing
the same thing
to benefit each other. But for me, with her, I have to remind her, like, hey, you've been at this sport longer than most people ever have. Trust in your own instinct. Believe in what you've done it forever. And you're right, you did it, and just all it is reassurance a lot of times with her.
A lot of coaching is getting to the same place but taking different cars.
Exactly.
And a lot of times,
that's a great analogy.
Coaches spend their time trying to slow the students down and trying to get them to understand good things take time. You're going to have to develop. You're going to have maybe a loss. You're going to have to, for every John Jones out there, there's fighters, everybody takes one on the chin. So how you overcome that. And you said something, and I picked up on it. I was listening to you talk, and you weren't talking to me. You were just kind of just rapping, and you were talking about her weight cut. And you said, she just needs to get past it and get out there and win. And everything else will be forgotten and move on. And that's such great advice. And I, growing up in New England, you grow up with, you're a football guy, you grow up with the Belichick-isms and everything. And you just have to turn the page, kind of have that we're on to Cincinnati mentality. And that's so hard to do today with social media and with people getting bombarded. And you have to get people to turn the phone off and focus.
That's a great point.
And how hard is it for you to get fighters to just focus on what's in front of them as opposed to everything that's behind them?
Got to know your guy. Got to know your fighter. And fortunately for me, I played quarterback a lot of my career. And I remember, my dad was my coach for a long time. He's our defense coordinator in high school as well. And playing quarterback, he said, listen, you can't approach everybody the same. Some guys you have to grab by the face mask. Some guys you have to pat on the back. Right? So you have to understand who you have and what drives them. How do you communicate with them? If you're one certain way, only certain people are going to gravitate towards you. So I learned a lot of that, and then how to almost articulate that through Coach Follis. So for me, it's just almost kind of understanding who you have and then what approach you're going to take best. So with Jessica, especially during the weight cut thing, although she knew I was mad and I was very upset with the situation because unfortunately that's going to overshadow her performance, and I knew that. But at the end of the day, there was two things. Either we missed the weight the way we did, and then we went and got our ass kicked, and then we really looked like idiots. We missed the weight, we turned the page, and then we go win this fight. Half of that's forgotten. And we had a great moment, and I'll share it with you. So when we pulled into the T-Mobile Arena, the whole day, we were in communication, but we weren't talking a whole lot. You were actually in the gym with me that day. And she was kind of mopey, and deservedly so, and I get it. And in the car ride, same thing. The attitude was just kind of meh, blah, blah. And we pull up to the T-Mobile. We're in a private car. Me and Coach Darren get out, and she gets out, and she just, I swear, John, just had that kind of Eeyore. And, I'm born and raised in Las Vegas. Although the T-Mobile isn't some, Wrigley Field here, fighting here means a lot to me, right? And as we're walking in, I just stopped her. I put my hand on her shoulder. I was like, hey, whatever you got to say, whatever's on your feelings right now, however you feel about yesterday, leave it right fucking here. Don't bring that shit in this arena, because if you do, with this attitude, we're going to get our ass kicked. So if you got something to get out, let's get it out right here.
Yeah, turning the page is something that's always difficult for athletes, and moving on to the next thing and the next thing and focusing on what's in front of them. And we've kind of gotten a little bit of the blueprint and seeing, like I said, the Belichicks and the Bradys and people that are successful at it. And that's something that you always work at as a coach. And you want to get over it, fix it, and move on. And you can't go back and buy back time. There's no amount of money that buys it back, so you can't fix it. So I always try to tell guys, at the end of the day, we can't go back. We have to go forward. So we have to make the most of the situation. Now, you've had so many great fighters come through here and even train here and spar here. Has there ever been a moment where you're in awe of kind of things that are going on in here and it's special?
Yeah. It's almost to that point where, when we had kind of that lull at Xtreme Couture where guys are moving around and going to train at other places, and then you get that, Jay Hahn always brings it up, just the energy in the room's different now. And he's like, man, it's fun to be here again. Guys love being here. So seeing guys like Jay, Gray, John Alessio that are still frequent this gym, when they give you the praise of where the gym's at now, means more to me than anybody else. Anybody that comes in here or any fan or whatever else, it's those guys because we actually have a saying, we lay tile in this bitch. And we did. Guys put paint on the wall and lay tile in this room. So when those guys see it and they appreciate where the gym's at now, that to me is probably the best like fan moment. Most pride I get is when those guys feel it.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And through the years, when you're in something like this, it takes a toll on you. It beats you down, but it also builds you up. So you try to always remember those moments. You always look back, whether it's high school or college football, and we share that kinship where you remember being, at the top of the game. Nobody ever remembers. I always say nobody remembers pushing the sled in the snow.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But I always use the phrase, has this guy ever been down in the mud? Or has he ever been in the huddle? Because you've been in the huddle or you haven't.
Right.
And guys that have been in the huddle can understand that. And it's the same in this game.
Right.
It's understanding, has anyone been in the cage? Has anyone ever punched you in the mouth? And understanding that and kind of wrapping your head around it and having those moments where, and the feeling, it's like the smell of fall that comes over you with football. And you're like, this is awesome. You know what I mean? And it's amazing. But here, you kind of get that smell back in the gym, the feel back in the gym, that understanding of like, wow, we're doing something special here. And through the years, fighters that have come and gone in here, you have to pinch yourself and say, this is my job and I get paid to do this.
100% every day.
Yeah, it has to be amazing.
Yeah, and the best is coming from my dad, who this was his, football was his sport. My great uncle was the head coach for Cleveland Browns and Washington Redskins. So coaching is in my blood. It's our lineage. But every day, man, my dad sends me a text and it was like, man, you get paid to do this. We used to always have a saying on the football field, there's no place I'd rather be than here with you guys right now. And I say that all the time on the mats because it's genuine. I do. I love being here.
One thing that always intrigues me too, and I want to bring this up to you because I know your football background and I've looked into your history and you've talked about it, you've been very open about it. How much is film becoming a thing now in training?
It needs to be. It really does. I mean, you and I both understand.
Totally.
I used to sit down with my old man, and you remember the big yellow freaking
100%.
Note paper, and so my dad would give me something to do, and moreover, it was probably just because I wanted to be with my dad. So he would give me something. He's like, okay, every time it's third down, I want you to see what they do if they're on the left hash. And there might have been nothing, but it was just him keeping me busy. But what it did is it started ingraining, things that you would see in repetition, right? What are the tendencies that you start to see over and over and over again? So when I sit down and watch tape, I turn the sound off. I don't listen to any of the commentary.
Don't watch it like a movie.
And what I'll usually do is I'll just watch and see what kicks they throw. So 15 minutes and just sit there and watch kicks. What are they doing? What are they kicking off of? How are they doing off of this? Boom, 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 boom. And then watch it all over again. What are they doing? How are they shooting? Are they shooting a single? Are they shooting the double? If it's off the cross, if it's off of this. And I just break it all down again and going over and over and over. And then all of a sudden you go, I see it. I see the tendencies.
And that's something that I think the George Masvidal fight brought in was that little bit of, there was no doubt he studied some of Ben's tendencies. And when he came shooting in, he knew that there was going to be a moment where he put his head down.
Yep.
And he took a chance. There was a huge chance in there. But no one can tell me that there wasn't some film study
and
involved.
That's a great analogy out of you, John, because if you watch him, he drifted to the right. Right? And that was something that he had to see on tape. And he comes out this way, he drifts this way. And I actually talked to him about this. He said if I missed the knee, I knew all I was going to do was somersault over top of him. So by drifting over to the right,
he went all in.
He went all in. He said the worst case scenario is I'm going to do a somersault over top of him, and it's going to be a scramble. And I'm confident enough that I'll get up. But that's a great point because he did. If you rewatch it, it's very subtle. He drifts over the right and cuts back at a 45-degree angle and hits him with that knee.
Yeah, I think film is something kind of. I brought it up with every fighter. I think it's one of the last mountains to conquer. I think as time goes on, more and more fighters are going to be studying film, and with guys like you with that film background, are going to be putting more and more of that in. Now, there's a downside, as you know, to studying too much film.
Correct.
So you have to balance it out and how much film you're going to watch.
There too. Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's the last 3 fights or the last 2.
How much have they grown?
Yeah, how much have they grown?
You'd be amazed how many guys don't even turn it on. Do you watch tape? Nope, I don't watch tape at all. And Uriah Hall was one of my guys that he just didn't watch tape. And credit to Uriah, I mean, he's just a creative guy. He wants to paint on the fly.
Yep.
He wants to paint to what's coming from him. Me, I'm like a serial killer. I want to know every movement. I want to know all of his tendencies. I want to sit there and watch that dude and know right before he does.
I think it was Chris Spielman who said he played the game 10 times before he actually played it. And he used to watch the tape, and he used to play the game over and over and over again.
I mean, he's a guy that would call the play while they're lining it up. He would tell them, hey, we got a screen coming over here, and the guy, fucking audible, you know, he knows what's coming.
He was known for that. He used to watch the tape so much. He would play the game. He would literally stand there and he'd play the game as if it was happening in front of him, the offensive tape.
And that's a great point on building on that is the visualization of what you do. Seeing it and drilling it and doing it over and over and over, and how much it actually starts to take place in the fight.
Yeah.
You know?
So, it's great for me to see coaches like you come in with that unique background, because you can add so much to the strategy, to the fight game, to coaching them and bringing them along. It's refreshing to see some of the ideas that we kind of grew up with come into this game, and I think film is going to be one of them. I think another one is going to be the preparation for weight cuts, the ability to diet and nutrition. That's something that I felt, the last few years in the UFC has grown leaps and bounds, especially with the fighters, not just the UFC, across the board. I think diets become more and more prevalent, and you see guys taking it more seriously. Do you ever come across fighters that just they don't have it, and how do you deal with that? Whether it's upstairs or physically?
Honestly, that's there's times where I just talk to guys. I'm like, yeah, you have to be honest with yourself. There's a point there where you tell me you want to be.
You have like a Brendan Schaub moment, you know?
You just you got to be honest with yourself, and those guys do serve a purpose in your gym. There's guys in here that are never going to be in the UFC. They're never going to be a championship
and that's
fighter,
okay.
And that's okay. They serve a purpose, and a lot of those guys end up being like team captain roles. Charles Lee, for example. One of my best friends, one of the longest tenured guys here at Xtreme Couture, he comes in because his joy is to help other guys get better. And you need guys like that. And he's honest with himself. But then you get the guys that are just delusional. You're not doing all the right things to be a champion. I don't believe you. So you're spinning your wheels, wasting time with a guy.
Those guys can tend to become cancers in some way,
Big time.
And you have to be careful with them, because you see that in every sport. It's like that everywhere. It's like the guy in the locker room walking around, saying he can't win, or we're not going to win the next game, or whatever. So you have to be very careful weeding out those cancers in your gym, because you always want people that uplift.
Great.
You know, and you want people like in the shooting game. There's a lot of guys that walk around. They'll say, "Look, I'm not a top 25 guy, but I'm very okay with the 25 guys above me."
Right.
You want guys like that in your gym that are like, encouraging and bringing people along, and, maybe have been there and done that a little bit, just enough that can coach them along and coach them through the tough points.
Yeah, and they all serve a purpose. Yeah, absolutely.
They all serve a purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, I say it all the time. I'll never be a guy who steps in the cage and fights and does those things, but I don't do it for those reasons.
Right.
I enjoy it. I enjoy getting out and getting a sweat and getting the training in, and it's nice to get punched in the face once in a while.
Absolutely. Just getting better every day.
That's the big thing.
Yeah,
It's
I agree.
humbling. It brings you down to zero. I love walking off the mat with a black eye or getting fucked up, and I'm like, this is great. Or rolling around with Ben and having Ben kick my ass. Some days, it's a lot of fun. Now, you recently had Jessica in the UFC 245. You got some stuff coming up. There's a lot of really cool stuff on the horizon. What are you excited about, and what fights really get you going right now?
Everyone has their kind of different role, I would say. And right now, for me, my guy, my big focus is Dan Ige. We got that Mirsad Bektik fight. Dan is a guy that you kind of alluded to earlier, John, was who motivates you and who gets you up in the morning is a guy like Dan Ige. His dad's a Master Chief in the Navy SEALs.
Yep.
He's just a hard-nosed kid who doesn't complain about shit. You get him on the stool, you can be 1-1 in a fight and need round 3, and he's a guy that I firmly believe in that will go get the job done. Honest to God, he's just a guy that I feel he makes me better every day, and I'm motivated to work with him. So this fight against Mirsad is a big fight for both of us, and I think that getting a win there is going to break him into the top 10.
Yeah. There's just so many I see in here every day that get me fired up. What divisions are you looking at that you love right now, whether it's in the UFC or outside of the UFC? Because, I come in here and I pinch myself. I know you take it for granted. You're jaded.
Yeah.
I take it for granted. You come in here, you see Vinny Magajelas, you see Jessica, you see folks like Joe Benavidez in here training. There's Ben Saunders in here all the time. You got to get excited when you see that stuff going on. Now, there's divisions I love.
Right.
I mean, you could not help but love the welterweight division in the UFC right now. There was so much going on, especially leading into the Usman fight. What divisions do you look at and you're like, geez, this is going to be fucking awesome? It has to obviously be the bantamweight division and the female division. That's exciting. But is there any other divisions you're looking at and you're like?
I would say the bottom, meaning the flyweights, because I'm
the light guys,
the small guys. I'm super excited for Joe to be getting this shot. And I think it's well deserved. Ironically,
overdue, probably.
Overdue, and it was funny because I was just telling Joe the story, and I didn't know if he remembered it, but he did. He loses the Pettis, and we get back home, and we sit and kind of just let him talk. You don't have to do much with Joe; he'll talk.
Yep.
And he gave me like a 5-step process. He goes, "Here's what's going to happen. Boom, boom, boom. Cejudo and Mighty Mouse are going to fight. Cejudo's probably going to beat him. That's going to be my interest. I'll probably have to win 2 more, and then I'll get my title shot, and then I'm going to get the belt." And I'll never forget that. And I mean, it damn near verbatim planned out the way he thought of. So I'm super excited for Joe. The other guy I'm really happy for is Francis. I'm pumped for that guy. He's got a great story, and I got to work with him this last camp. We've been working a little bit more together now, but I'm just super excited for him in that heavyweight division. His story is unbelievable. The guy, I think he said it was 11 times it took him to get on a raft from Morocco to Spain.
It's crazy.
11 times.
I read that. Yeah.
It took him to get there. So we go to dinner one night, and he's telling me this story, and I'm just entrenched in hearing this guy's backstory. And then it got all said and done, and I said to him, I was like, "Hey man, there's nothing in the world that can hold you back from this title but you. If you put that work in, there's nothing that holds you. You went across an ocean on a raft.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that you can't come in and wrestle the days you need to wrestle.
Yeah.
Don't let now make you feel comfortable. You didn't feel comfortable then. That was 10 years ago.
It's a great way to put it. And there's so many times you get snapshots into people's mentality and how they look at things. Like I say all the time, they're like, "Oh, no one could have predicted, Brady to be great." And I say, well, go back and look at the old tapes when he used to say, they'd say, "Brady, what's it like to play in front of 70,000?" And he'd say, "I played in front of 109,000 in Michigan." He goes, "No big deal."
No big deal.
So you have to have guys that have that mentality of like, I can do anything. Like you said, he came on a raft. I mean, It doesn't get harder than that.
Yeah.
Basically you're fleeing your country. You have nothing in your pockets, and you're trying to make it happen. But that division, coming back to that division with Joe Benavidez, that almost worked out to be an insane situation had a couple things bounced Tim's way. Mm-hmm. It could have been, Tim and Tim going at it.
Yeah.
And that would have been insane for Las Vegas,
right.
Insane for the fight scene
for
around
sure.
here, because you would have had 2 guys in there that were, dueling it out. It didn't work that way.
Right.
Tim had a quick turnaround, and he's on the rebound, but it just could have worked out in such a way that it would have been insane, huh?
And in my opinion, when they were even talking about dissolving the flyweight division, I'm like, what are they thinking? That's the most exciting division to me.
It's heating up, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Mighty Mouse was kind of the king for such a long time, and it might have gotten stale. But when you watch those guys fight, just the fight alone and technique alone,
the scrambles, everything. It's I love watching them on open mat.
Remember that cartoon where it was like the cat and the dog and the big ball? I mean, that was it.
Yeah, it's so much fun watching them on open mat. And if you ever get a chance to watch those guys, those 110s, 120s, and even the guys under 150, it's so much fun to see them just fly around the mat.
For sure.
And they do stuff like big guys like us wouldn't dream of doing. I'm like, I could never do that.
Yeah, exactly.
How the hell do they do that?
All right, I'm tired.
Yeah, exactly. You get tired watching them because they're so much fun. The bigger guys, there's athleticism there. It's a little more lumbering, and there's more thought that goes into it. But seeing the little guys scramble is so much fun.
Yeah, cardio for days.
Oh,
man.
burning calories.
Yeah, just
killing them. You know. What about the welterweight division now? That's one people have talked about a lot. You have Georgie there. You have obviously Usman retaining the title, which was a great fight in its own regard. Your hats off to Colby. How do you see that playing out with Georgie jumping in the mix now?
Man, Georgie's a dog. Known him for a long time.
Street Jesus.
I mean, he's just a dog, and you can never count that guy out. And it's just you never seen the guy just get smoked. He's going to be in a fight no matter what. I personally think that he from what he's put together in the last 2 years, he deserves that title shot. Again, Leon Edwards, his last loss was to Usman, and that was 11 fights ago, I believe. So, I mean, you're talking about 2 guys that are very deserving to take that. From last I saw, I think it was Woodley and Edwards. So which would pave the way for Masvidal and Usman. So.
Yeah, I think it plays out with obviously. I know they're working on it now, but Masvidal and Usman, and then I think eventually, it could set up potentially for a huge Masvidal Covington fight down the line. I mean, Colby needs a bounce back fight, but I think that could play into it. You get there's so many storylines there because Colby's such a little pissant sometimes, and he gets everybody fired up, and I love you, Colby, but
I know the guy. I've known the guy for a long time.
It's a lot of fun, seeing that play out and all the fire he causes, and I think the division needs that. And,
I do too.
And that's something we've talked about. The rise of the characters in fighting. And how important is it to have a little bit of a character or a shtick? You know what I mean?
Right.
Do you think it's getting too WWE, or do you think there's a place for it?
A little bit, and I think Colby did it at the right time. And you and I actually spoke about this because I remember when Colby told me about this a few years ago.
Yeah.
This was kind of what he was going to
the angle
that he was taking. So when I saw it, I knew what he was doing, but it was like, oh shit, that's not really Colby, And then it caught fire, and then he ran with it, and now he is kind of who he is. I don't think there's ever really turning back from that now.
Yeah, they say back in the day, like you would call like Randy Savage, you call Macho Man's house, and he was like always the character.
Right.
He'd be like, "What's up, brother?" You know what I mean? So like they were like, you didn't know if you were talking to Randy or like you were talking to Macho.
Yeah.
So they'd be like, "Macho, hey, it's funny. You can talk to look at clips on YouTube of wrestlers, they'd be like, you didn't know like who you were talking to.
Who were you getting into?
But sometimes it gets a little lost in the shuffle, but it is fun to see a little bit of the entertainment come into it. And I think that has a place.
I do too.
Whether or not it could get out of control and turn into something. And despite what people think, Usman's shtick is his shtick. Everybody has their shtick, you know, and everybody plays the role. And that goes all the way back to Muhammad Ali in the fight game for many years. They're always going to be trying to drum up that support for a fight, because at the end of the day they have to sell tickets.
And you're blending very close demographics, WWE, UFC.
I say it all the time.
Demographics. So for what he's doing, he's drawing over more of that WWE demographic, which I think the UFC can use.
Yeah, and I think a lot of guys could benefit, Eric, from mic work. They have to get more in front of the mic.
Agreed.
And I know a lot of your fighters will listen to this. One of the things I always tell them, when they come out and do the podcast, I'm like, come out and do it. It's good mic work for you. Get in front of the mic, learn your story, tell your story, and that's something I think as coaching progresses, a lot of guys need to instill in their folks. Hey, you got to get out there. You got to tell your story. People need to hear your story. You need to come up with a 20, 30-minute shtick, on what your story is and get it out there.
Yeah, almost have bullet points so where to go to and how to get it out. Yeah,
and it's hard for them to do that sometimes because they're used to just getting in and preparing for the fight.
Right.
They're not used to getting out there and saying, here's who I am, here's what I do, and here's what I'm about.
Which leads to more endeavors. You speak well, this sponsor now wants to pick you up. There's other people that they know, hey man, I can get this guy a contract, he can be a representative for my product. He speaks well. Here's what he represents. Great, let's put him on.
Yeah, and I think some guys take it to the extreme as Colby did, and some guys reel it back in and they're almost so quiet and so introverted that you can't get them to come out of their shell, and that hurts you too. But there's so many different facets to this game, and it's exciting to see it evolve. And in many ways, you look back and you see Chuck Liddell, Randy, those guys were like the originals. They were so good they were good on the mic, they were good in the ring, they could back it up, they had the original shit talkers out there, and it was so much fun to see it play out. When you're in the gym and you're training with these guys and you get all the equipment on, I've seen you in here. Are you ever, you can have no days off.
Right.
So how do you get in here and how do you keep that intensity every day to be like, all right, I got to put the equipment on, I got to put the fucking do-rag on, I got to come in and I have to get it up. I mean, are you riding on monsters or how do you do it?
Honestly, it is that kind of like the analogy, just jumping in a shark cage. They might look tame every once in a while, but these are sharks and they'll come up and bite your ass if you're not prepared. Luckily for me, like I have so many guys fighting, I end up watching more sparring than I have been sparring. But when I spar, it's usually with Jay Haran, Ray, guys that I know that like their egos aren't sitting out there anymore. There's some guys that when you spar, hey, it's going to be a fight. So you got to kind of pick and choose, especially now because there's no off season for me. So getting injured or the risk of getting injured for me now means I don't get a coach. So I have to be very selective in what I do, but I also have to make sure that I'm still growing myself.
And you got to be on. You got to have that intensity because they're going to feed off of you and you're going to feed off of them.
Yeah.
So as a coach, you're always they're looking for the secret sauce. So when you get out of bed, and you hit the gym, maybe hit the weights for a couple hours. Like I do the same thing. At 4 in the morning, I'm in the gym. So you train, and we've gone back and forth and talked about that. You're like, hey, I'm in fucking Lifetime hitting the weights. You have to kind of come in here and a switch has to go off, especially the days you got to spar and you got to put the pads on and you have to hit.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of always be like, okay, today's the day. I gotta get it up, and you gotta have that intensity because it's fun to see you guys flying around in here screaming at each other.
And nobody wants to come to practice with a fucking coach.
Hell no.
You know what I mean? All right, let's go. Yeah. That doesn't do anything. So when the music's blaring, the energy's up, guys are like, fuck yeah, man, let's go. Like this dude's ready to ride with me. I'm ready to ride with him. And at the end of the day, when you're in the cage and you're on that stool and you prepare like this and that guy's with you day in and day out, that dude will run through a fucking wall for you. And that's almost subliminally what you're trying to build in here. Guys like Eddie, when you see Eddie coach a practice, you're like, all right, dude, I'm bringing this guy with me. He's going to light a fire under my ass.
Eddie's squared away.
He's squared away.
Very squared away. So much of it ends up becoming the mental, which is something we touched on a little earlier. When you're preparing guys for the mental and you're preparing yourself, how much time are you spending with the fighters? It's never enough, right? It's never enough. But how much time are you spending with the fighters pre-fight and, kind of leading up to camp and getting them mentally prepared?
Every day. Every day. And I'll find areas, even if it's a text message,
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's just something subliminal.
The dark digital nightmares.
Exactly. I'm a big Les Brown fan. I'll listen to a lot of Les Brown motivational things, and there'll be, Abraham Maslow. There'll be some little snippets here and there, and I'll just send a quote, and it will resonate to that fighter at that certain point. And then there's times too where you can feel certain people that aren't getting attention. And my dad used to do this all the time, and he taught me this. He's like, hey, you might not ever seen this kid or a play that the kid was in or anything like that, but if you just tell him, hey, you look good today, man, good practice, you might not even see shit. But what you did for that kid
at that moment
might resonate with him for the rest of the season. It's huge.
It's huge.
So there'll be fighters in here where maybe I saw one little thing and it was a good thing, and I'll jump on that. Hey man, that was a great head kick you threw today. You thought so? Hell yeah, man. And you just keep everybody kind of involved.
And that's something that's huge with jiu-jitsu because you get beaten down so much constantly, and that's something I've brought up to many of my jiu-jitsu coaches. Like, look, it's a never-ending thing. You have to stay on that.
Yeah.
And too many guys get down in the dumps because you're constantly, for the first year and a half you do jiu-jitsu, you're probably not going to win
not at
anything.
All. Yep.
You're going to take a beating. You're going to get your head pushed down. So it takes a lot of time to develop that confidence of like, oh, I can hit, a submission,
Yeah.
I remember the first time Marcy, who was just in here taking photos, she said, I remember the first time she hit a submission, she came in the office, she's like, I hit a submission last night.
Isn't it great? I mean, that's the beauty of it. And that's why, like, I take pride in being a student under Vinny. Vinny is to me, one of the best in the world.
Oh, yeah.
He
Hands
is.
down.
But when you roll with Vinny, he's always trying to constantly make you improve. At any break in the moment, he can kick your ass.
Oh, yeah.
But if he catches you with one submission over and over and over again, he tells you what you're doing wrong. All right, now D that up. You start working here.
I remember when I first got to Vegas, the first place I went was downtown, and I signed it. I was down at 10th Planet, and Vinny walked in probably the second night. It was an open mat, and I remember tapping hands with him, and I was like, "This is
here we go."
Suck. Yeah. Because I already knew who he was,
right.
And I jokingly said, "Hey, how long you been training?" I kind of did that,
right.
And and I knew the answer before I got it, and I remember leaving, and Vinny doesn't know this if he listens, Vinny, I want you to come on, but if you listen, if you listen to this, I said, call my buddy Ruben Alvarez, who's a black belt down in Florida, knows Vinny. I said, I just rolled with Vinny last night, and he goes, how bad? I was like, it was awesome, but it was bad. It's like one of those things. Yeah. But it's a lot of fun, and it's always an ongoing learning experience.
Absolutely.
And as a coach, you have to always keep your guys up, no matter what. And they always say, when you're bad, play fast. When you're worse, play fast.
Right.
And you
exactly.
have to learn to kind of turn the page, move on to the next thing. Now, in this gym, there's so much history, and there's so much that's been through here. I want you to kind of give me, a little bit of a snapshot of some of the moments that have been some of the best moments for this gym, and some of the best moments you feel you've been in here, and you kind of look back and you're like, geez, you leave the office and you're like, this was fucking awesome.
Yeah. The one that resonates with me the most, probably because I felt like it was the first time in a long time. When Randy won, it was different. But when Miesha Tate beat Holly.
Yep. I figured you'd bring that one up.
And that one, I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about it. And here's why, is because Follis had a great way of making sure the entire gym
felt that energy
was behind him, right? Felt that energy. Not the team, the members, the front desk. Everybody had invested interest in what Miesha was going to do, you know? And when she did, it felt like a victory for the entire gym.
Yep.
And that, I'll never forget the energy that we had for that. And it just pushed us for such a long time.
I tell every company I work with, every brand, I say all wars are won locally first. And this is your locale. So all wars are won locally first. You can't win a war without winning the local battle first. So you have to get everybody emotionally invested.
Yep.
You have to get everybody involved. You have to have everybody want to be a part of it.
Yep.
And then it's push, kind of like driving a sled. It's everybody gets behind it, and you push that sled a lot easier when you feel the whole town behind you.
Boats all rowing in the same direction.
Boats all rowing in the same direction.
And to her credit, that Monday, first person in the gym, brought the belt, everybody's pictures and hugs and everything else, and that was the energy that I remember the most.
Yeah.
You know, and that for me, I think was probably the one of the best times I've ever had in this
and
show.
it's hands down one of the original crowning moments for women fighting, because the women in the sport were still kind of not fledgling but still establishing themselves. You had Ronda, who was such a huge foundation for that,
Right.
And then you had Miesha, who was up on the rise, and you had Kat involved. Kat's a friend of mine. You had Kat involved in the mix there, and I felt women's fighting still wasn't as founded, and it's kind of like you didn't know the presidency in the United States was really going to work till you had that first transfer of power. So
Right.
you had one of those first transfers to Holly and then to Miesha.
Right.
So that was still establishing itself and laying the groundwork for
Yeah,
what would become
and
the
let's not
women's
forget it was the fashion that they were winning. Here's Holly comes in and head kick KOs Ronda at a plus 700 favorite, right? And then you turn around and here's Miesha that needs to get a finish. She's going to lose on the scorecards and pulls out a miraculous rear naked choke, and then she turns around and goes and fights Amanda. And then now look at what the one Amanda's on,
Yeah.
you know?
And that shows a lot about the evolution of the women's game, because the women's game's been a little behind the men's game in its
Right.
evolution. You had Ronda, who was such a great judo practitioner, and she had really dialed in some of those moves.
Right.
And then you had, obviously, Holly come in, who was just a bruiser and a striker in the purest sense. And then Miesha come in with the technique and the things that she was doing, well-rounded and everything.
Absolutely.
And able to take you out in a couple different ways. And now you just have Amanda, who's the total package, who's just steamrolling everybody.
And she fixed the one thing that was always her question was her cardio, you know? And then it's that LeBron James thought process. Hey, I got 6 titles, but I need to shoot free throws better. And he goes to work and gets after it because everybody's chasing after
Filling
it.
in the holes.
Filling in those holes.
Just filling in the holes.
Yep.
The women's division is definitely something that you guys have well established here with a lot of the women fighters you have in these doors. Do you have anybody up and coming that you're really excited about?
Female-wise?
Yeah.
Well, Emily's not necessarily up and coming, but when I see her on the mats and the way she trains is she's unbelievable talent. And her biggest thing I think is her highs are so highs and her lows are too low. She kind of just needs to be that right in that even keel. But when she's on, man, she's on. She's one of the best talents I've seen, and she's, in my opinion, she could be a future champ in the sport.
Now, I'm going to ask the impossible question as we get close to closing. The Randy factor. It's always operating in the shadows of Randy, right? But Randy's awesome. I saw him here last week. We talked about a couple times we had met in the past, and we were rapping. But wouldn't it be great to have a heavyweight come along to kind of eclipse that and kind of get you guys in that place again where it's you have a heavyweight out there front and center. It's so hard to have a homegrown heavyweight in the gym, and it's so tough to develop. I selfishly would love to see a heavyweight come in and come out of Vegas and establish themselves, because there's such a rich history of great heavyweight boxers here and so on. Are there any heavyweights in the gym right now that you're kind of have your eye on, or are you just guys still searching for one?
Nobody like that's really like the big up and coming guy. We do have some great talent with Carl and Zeke and the Simone boys that have been here that have really helped the gym out a lot. You know, and Roy Nelson's been here for such a long time, and they're established themselves in his career. But I feel like with Francis, he's kind of had a renaissance to him, and I feel like the Miocic loss, the Derek Lewis loss, he was training other places, but I feel like he needed those losses for his career. And seeing him now, like the extra work, and I almost kind of bait him with it. Like we'll be done with practice, and I'll grab a kick shield. Like, all right, man, you got 50 kicks each side, and just see what he says. You know, and all right, gets up and rips those 50 kicks, and just kind of just ingraining that championship mentality. He's the one guy. Somebody asked me during Christmas, you know, when's the last time you get goosebumps anytime you walk anybody out? But when we walked out for that JDS fight, he had a Mike Tyson factor to him. I mean, it was just wow. You know, the crowd, it was electric in a way, but it was like they were just mesmerized by this man. You know, and Drake was on, he was walking nice and slow and coming out, and it was almost a relief in a way. I had no pressure on me as one of the coaches. I just felt the guy was going to go out and touch him, and it was going to be over.
It was going to be over.
And that was it. And I've never seen anything like it. The way he just, I mean, it was like a great white shark just cruising, and we saw it, and it was done. It was over.
The heavyweights are something everybody's always drawn to, and the big guys, and seeing that play out in this gym, obviously, again, with the history of Randy, and having that here, it's always going to loom like a giant shadow, whether it's over the heavyweight or light heavy division. But it'd be so much fun, obviously, to have a heavy guy jump into the mix again,
for sure, and
have that happen. And in many ways, you have that in some ways with Jessica. I think Jessica's going to get another shot. I have no doubt in my mind about that. And Jessica, if you're listening, I mean, I have every bit of confidence in you being able to do that. I have no doubts that that's going to happen. I think she needs a couple pieces to fall in place.
For sure.
And I think she's going to be right there in the mix. She really surprised the hell out of me in that last fight. And getting out there and doing it the way she did it, and reestablishing herself.
Shows what she's capable of, and she's been putting in the work, and we were just adding little tools here and there. She believed in it, and that was the outcome.
Yeah, a couple little wrinkles, and I think she's going to be right back in that mix and
I agree.
Get another chance at that. And I think, hopefully she comes out on top this time around.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's so much fun, man. It's been a lot of fun rapping with you. For a long time we've had the back and forth of wanting to do this. I'm excited. I really, in many ways, I have the best of both worlds. I get to train here on the weekends. I come here and I get to mix it up with the coaches, and it's so much fun. I mean, you have a great crew here at Xtreme Couture. It's an awesome group. I love Chad. I love Eddie. Just what you guys are establishing here. There's one thing I ask all the coaches. I say it all the time. If anyone out there is ever looking for a gym, you guys are known. You never turn anybody away.
Right.
You'll find a way to make it work. Whether if you want to train and you want to find a place to train, whether you got to clean toilets or brush the floor, whatever, you guys will find a way to make it work. What are scenarios? When guys are looking for gyms, what is it that you guys offer that sets you apart from every other gym besides the striking and having the circle? Having the cages.
And use me as an example because I set foot in this gym as a member, and I've never looked back. And now I'm in the position I am today. And I know that's not a lot of people's
always
goals.
Be a customer first.
Right, and for me, I don't want you to feel like you're a number here. I want you to feel like you're a part of the family here. And I tell people, hey, go to train at other places and see what they have to offer, because you'll know right away, like, I feel like I belong here. This is something I want to be a part of. I don't want you to step on the mat and go, this dude's never even going to know my name in a month. This instructor doesn't care who I am. But like you said, the Chads, the Rich Castros.
Richie. I'm sorry.
But even people like that, they make you feel like you're welcome and you're wanting to be here.
And I'll say something amazing about Richie. I actually went up to him last week and I said, bro, that was amazing what you said, and I want you to know that. And he was on the mat and he said, look, when practice is over, it doesn't mean it has to end.
Right.
He goes, I'll stick around as long as someone wants to stick around and train. Now, a lot of times on Saturdays, because I have obligations, I can't stick around. But when he said that, it meant a lot to me, and I wanted to say something to him, which I did. But when coaches say that to me, that's way better than a pat on the back. I'm not a rah-rah guy, so I don't need a lot of coaches to say, hey, Johnny, you're doing great. Like, I never needed that. I need the coach who spits in my face, so that's how I respond. But I like that, but it's nice to hear a coach once in a while say, hey, when practice is over, you don't got to leave. I'll stick around with you if you want to get a couple extra minutes on the mat, or you just need to coach through something. That to me said a lot about the caliber of coaches in here, and a lot about Richie too. And
Rich has been one of my good friends and training partners for over 10, 11 years now. I've been with Rich a long time, and he's a guy that I've fought for to make sure that he had classes. You know, even when he wasn't even coaching much, and we all came up under Neil Melanson, and myself and Richie, we just knew that, man, like if he taught, I was there. If I was teaching, he was there. And he's a guy that I think has just really expanded his knowledge under Coach Follis, now black belt under Coach Casey as well. I'm just beyond beyond proud of what this guy's invested in himself and what he puts back into this team at Xtreme Couture.
And it's amazing here at Xtreme how many different coaches from the area commune here.
Right.
You always have Coach Casey in here. You always have Vinny in here. So there's always, this has become almost like a communal place where everybody comes to train. So that's a testament to everybody in the gym and the culture that you've created. It's not a closed door culture.
It can't be, not, and in this city especially. But at the end of the day, man, there's enough cake to go around. We can all eat. There's enough food for us to get full bellies. And once you start taking too much, you got too much on your plate, and you can't help everybody that way. And there's, like, to me personally, I get along great with Coach Eddie, because we understand, like, when Eddie's gone, you saw me holding pads for Joe. When I'm out of town, he's helping me hold pads for fighters that I can't be with at that time, because it's not about who, it's about the wins and losses on the board under Xtreme Couture. And it starts with guys like with that mentality that Eddie has, man. He's just in there trying to help and make everybody better.
What does it mean with the PI coming in the last few years and having the ability to have the UFC have a ground zero here now too?
It's been great for us, and it's helped us get in touch or work with a lot of people we might not have ever seen. I held pads for a kid named Gavin Tucker last week, 145er, beyond talented. I was blown away how talented this kid was. He would never have came to Vegas had it not been for the PI. And Misha Serkinoff moved here. He's like, I'm going to come here for PI and Xtreme Couture. Well, that's a 50-50 split, right? I mean, it wasn't just because. So without the PI, we're not getting guys like that in. Jessica I, another one. That was a lot of her deciding factors. So it's been great for us to have that facility here.
Yeah, I think that's a huge step in the right direction for the UFC team and what they're doing. And I had a few of the guys in my office today because they just want to see the studio and walk around. And it's always nice I always say, look, the door's open, come in. I'd love for you guys to see the place, just to say, hey, we've walked through it, we've seen it. You know what I mean? It's a legit operation, it's not a mom and pop, shop. So having them here and having that resource is tremendous, not just for the fighters but also for you guys as coaches, because you have the ability to, when you're working with the UFC guys, to bounce things off of that facility and the resources that they have available for that facility. What I'd love to see come into play, and as a coach you have to have a take on this, and I've said this to a few fighters, I'd like to see them eventually put in more for the fighters as they retire and as they transition to life. And I think that's the next evolution, because a lot of times as a coach, as you're dealing with, what do we do now, coach? What's the next step for me in life? And I was talking to Matt Brown about this, and Matt was like, when I left and I started my gym and I retired, nobody even called me. Nobody even said, hey, we can help you start a gym. So I feel, if anyone from the UFC was ever listening, I'd love to see them eventually put in a transition program or something that helps the fighters get to that point where they can retire and have something to retire into, or at least have a sounding board. And I know that they're starting to go in that direction with Forrest and with some of the things that they're putting in place, having liaisons and having people to bounce things off of. But I think it's important that eventually they get to similar, like the NFL, have almost like a rookie camp, but also have the ability to have the alumni.
I agree, and I saw that firsthand with Martin. I cornered Martin for his last two fights, and unfortunately the last fight he had with Carlos Condit was the last fight of his career, which he never intended it to be. And it was due to concussions, and he decided that it was better for him to hang it up. But it, just like you said, you're not really. Martin was smart with his money, so he's a good example, but he also was great with putting his money away. So he was doing okay, but at the end of the day, he's taken a part of him that was his history for however long that he was working on and getting better at, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So that you're absolutely right. That transition process is so important. What are you going to do next? Well, even after Jessica lost to Valentina, that was one of her biggest things is, what am I going to do? This is who I am. okay, well, we're going to start putting things in place for you now. So when you do decide it's time to retire, you feel comfortable knowing that, okay, well, I have my real estate license. You know, I've done some stuff on the desk at ESPN, or I'm just getting into commentating, things of that sort. Let's get that ball rolling now. And it's important for me as a coach not to just coach them here in the gym, but help them out in life too, and give them some ideas and experiences that I might have had or seen with Martin, you know, and apply it to them as well.
And I think having those deep dive talks and then eventually having it bubble up to the UFC, I think they'll be forced to. I know if WWE is a little bit of a blueprint for them, and so is other professional sports organizations, I think eventually they'll put in, like the WWE has the wellness program, where they can always go back and they can get rehab, they can do certain things. So I think eventually the UFC will work its way up to having, whether it's on-site medical available to them, almost like a VA type scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully it doesn't turn into like what happened with the NFL and the CTE concussion big lawsuit.
I think they'll be forced to, and eventually it'll get to that. And I think as coaches, that's something that you all want.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd love to see them put together almost like a panel of coaches, or put together something that where they can kind of get all in a room and say, look, you know, there's 3 or 4 things that you guys have to put in place. And it has to start to fall as the alumni grows.
Right.
And it's not going to be for everyone, Eric. It's got to, you know, it's something I've talked about with Colby. I think it has to be they have to create a criteria, kind of like the NFL. You have that 5-year window. That 5 years is your first clip, I believe, for the vesting. I think they have to put something in place where it's like, okay, if you've had 10 UFC fights, you're eligible for this.
Right.
You know, if you've had 20 UFC fights, you're eligible for this.
And I think that's kind of what Randy's been working on with almost a union, if you will. Like, it's almost like a SAG card for fighters.
Yep.
You have X amount of fights.
And you can pay into it.
Correct. And just to have something, a lot of these guys don't even have insurance. You know, how scary is that? You get dudes, I've seen it. I've seen guys with ACL tears take a fight because the only way for them to get their knee repaired is get the insurance from the fight that they had. That's bad.
Scary. Yeah.
Scary. Guys going in knowing they're injured, taking a fight.
I hope that all comes together. If that's something Randy's working on, and I hope you guys champion it, because it's definitely something that we'd all like to see put in place, because I think without the fighters, the wheels don't keep turning and the machine doesn't keep going.
100%.
So you have to have something like that eventually in place. I think the likely scenario is something similar to a VA type scenario, where you have the ability to use the facilities after you're gone, or you have the ability to seek some levels of medical treatment depending on how many fights you had, like you said, like a SAG card type scenario, or you pay in similar to a union and you're eligible for
it. And in a way, it's kind of what we're doing with our MVP program that we have here. You know, it's the same thing with the veterans. They get out of the military and they're missing something. They need some camaraderie again, and they need some people they can lean on. And that's almost kind of what we're doing with the MVP program, is that transitional process, you know. And that was what it was built off of. It was veterans and players. That's what it was supposed to be like. Retired pro athletes,
come on down.
Retired military, let's put you guys together and let's get a workout in and kind of keep that camaraderie and those juices flowing again. And that's the transition process I think a lot of these guys in the UFC don't have anymore. They're done. That's it.
There's nothing.
There's nothing.
So it's been awesome.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep going on and on. We can do separate episodes. I want to have you on again, obviously, at some point as more fights flesh out. But I want to ask you, let everybody know where they can find you, where everyone can contact you, and where everyone can reach you.
Well, I'm here. I'm never leaving. I'm in here all day.
Well, what about the social media, the interwebs?
Yeah, exactly. So on Instagram, it's Eric_XC MMA, and that would be my Instagram and Twitter account. Really the only ones I even use at all. But if you ever need to come find me, man, just come knock on the door. I'm in there. I'm in the gym pretty much every day. So.
Well, if people want to email you, the best way is through the Instagram, hit message.
Yep, it's Eric@extremecouturemma.com, but it's right through that Instagram, exactly.
Okay, and if you're looking for a gym to come down to and you don't have the money, just come down and see these guys, just talk to them, work it out. The drop-in is ridiculous. I think it's $10.
$10, man, you know, and we don't do contracts anyway. We have a great offer on Groupon. It's the cost of 1 month gets you 3 months of unlimited training. So our unlimited is $175 a month. You pay that, and you're going to get 3 months through the Groupon. So it's a great.
And you
deal.
get access to everything.
You get access to everything. We're a 24,000 square foot facility. We have a great gym. You know, so we have it all here.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. If you get a chance to check it out, head down to Xtreme Couture. It has to be one of the. If you're in the fight game or you remotely like grappling, fighting, striking, anything, you have to come down here in Vegas, man. It's been awesome.
John, loved it, bro.
I loved it.
Appreciate
I appreciate it.
Yep.
So we're out. I appreciate everyone. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you to Eric and, of course, Xtreme Couture. We got to film here in the cage. I appreciate everyone. Remember to head over to kvar.com and support, and make sure you check out Xtreme Couture online and on all the social media.
Awesome, brother. Thanks, man.